Is the Hollywood sign haunted? The world-famous landmark represents the larger-than-life glitz and glamour that goes along with movie magic. But it also has tragedy tied up in its reputation. The tragedy dates all the way back to the 1930s. So if this ghost is still there, she's been there for a long time. Situated on Mount Lee in the Hollywood Hills, the letters tower at 44 feet tall, studded with thousands of light bulbs so you can't miss them, day or night. For nearly a century, the landmark has labeled the landscape Hollywood, becoming an internationally recognizable icon for a city, an industry, and an opportunity itself. But when the sign was first erected in 1923, it was really just a real estate advertisement. The billboard originally read Hollywoodland, and it was installed to help brand a suburban housing development. 9 years later, in 1932, the young actress Peg Entwistle, Betty Davis's personal icon, would reveal a darker side of Tinseltown when she climbed to the top of the H and plunged to her death. To this day, her spirit is said to haunt the landmark. As a promising actress, Peg Entwistle gained only moderate fame, but her ghost has become the stuff of Hollywood legend. On the night of September 18th, 1932, actress Peg Entwistle made her way up the steep slope of Mount Lee in Los Angeles to the site of the famous Hollywood sign. Back then, it spelled Hollywoodland. She took off her coat, neatly folded it, and put down her purse, and climbed up the maintenance ladder on the back of the 50-foot-high letter H. She stood atop of it for a moment, looking over the lights of the glamorous city below, and then she leaped to her death. Peg probably died instantly, and her body was found the next day by a hiker. But that's not the last Peg Entwistle was seen. Not alive, anyway. Her ghost has been sighted many times in the vicinity of the famous Hollywood landmark, still wandering slowly in her sorrow. Born in 1908 in Port Talbot Wells, UK, Millicent Lilian Entwistle. She dreamed of being in theater and even started going by Peg after seeing the play Peg, Oh My Heart. And she saw more than her share of tragedy. She was just a child when her mother died unexpectedly, after which she moved in with her father to New York City. A few years later, he was struck down by a hit-and-run car on Park Avenue and killed. In her late teens, Peg began to pursue an acting career on the stage, and was talented enough to win roles with the Boston Repertory Company and on Broadway in the renowned Theatre Guild productions. Betty Davis said that Peg Entwistle was her inspiration to pursue acting. At age 19, she married actor Robert Keith, only to discover that he had been married previously and had a 6-year-old son, which led to their divorce. Peg was able to find stage work in productions featuring such stars as Dorothy Gish and Laurette Taylor. But Peg was already battling the demons of depression. Nevertheless, she set her sights on Hollywood and moved to Los Angeles in 1932 in the hopes of landing roles in motion pictures. At first, she found work again on the stage, but then it seemed her destiny had really changed when RKO signed her to appear in the film 13 Women, starring Irene Dunne. When previews of the film received poor reviews, the studio re-edited it, and much of Peg's part was left on the editing floor. RKO subsequently dropped the options on her contract, and on the night of September 18, 1932, after a bout of heavy drinking fueled by her depression and despair, 24-year-old Peg Entwistle told her uncle with whom she was living that she was going to meet some friends at a local drugstore, when instead she made her way to the Hollywood sign to meet her fate. The police found her body in a ravine at the base of the sign. After identifying Entwistle's corpse, her uncle, in an unguarded moment, told a reporter that his niece had failed to click at RKO. The newspapers had found their juicy line. "Suicide laid to film Jinx" was the headline of the Los Angeles Times. "Movieland tragedy, the bruised body of a girl who failed," the New York Times reported. Her specific reasons and afflictions will never be truly known, but it was suspected that she was drunk that night. Combine that with her apparent depression, and it proved to be a deadly combination. She was found the next day by a female hiker, along with her suicide note, which read, "I am afraid. I am a coward. I am sorry for everything. If I had done this a long time ago, it would have saved a lot of pain. Signed, P.E." Since it was only signed with her initials, it took 2 days before her uncle came and identified her. Newspaper stories were written about her heartbreaking death, and it was a story about an unknown woman jumping off the sign that caught her uncle's eye, because she had been so fascinated by the sign while alive. The Hollywood sign stands atop Mount Lee in Griffith Park, just west of the Los Angeles suburb of Glendale. Over the years, park rangers have reported seeing a pretty blonde woman dressed in 1930s clothing wandering through the park paths. They describe her as looking sad, and when they approach her, she just vanishes. As a couple were walking their dog along the Beechwood Canyon Trail of the park, their dog began to behave strangely, whimpering and cowering behind them. Suddenly, a woman in out-of-date clothing appeared on the trail in front of them, appearing dazed and confused. She vanished before their eyes. John Arbogast, a park ranger, claims to have seen Peg's ghost on several occasions. He says she most often appears late at night when the conditions are foggy, and she is often accompanied by the strong scent of gardenia, said to be Peg's favorite fragrance. Devin Morgan, a resident of the Beechwood Canyon, can also verify the gardenia connection. One afternoon, Devin was taking an exercise hike up the trail near the sign. As she made her way around one of the switchbacks, she noticed the figure of a woman on another part of the trail. "She looked very strange to me," Devin said. "She had a very etheric quality. Instead of walking, she seemed to almost glide. She wasn't floating. She didn't look like she was a ghost. But there was something very, very strange about her, very soft-looking." Devin even attempted to catch up with this woman, but she simply just vanished. And the only thing in her place was this intense scent of gardenias. And most recently, 4 friends encountered the ghost. A story that was even featured on Sci-Fi's Paranormal Witness. The friends, Tina, Elaine, Brian, and Al, after a game at Dodger Stadium, decided to go touch the famous Hollywood sign. And although the area is off limits to trespassers, they jumped the fence and headed up. On their way back down, Brian slipped and fell part way down the hill. As he began to make his way back toward the others, he saw someone on the path walking towards him. It was a woman wearing a dress similar to the style of the 1930s, according to the Sci-Fi story. The ghost wore heels and a veil over her face. She walked so effortlessly up the hill, and her footsteps made no sound. It was only later that they read about the story of Peg Entwistle. As dark and as devastating as Peg's death was, it has also proved useful to the ghost tour industry, with organized visits to see the sites of numerous reported visions of Phantom Peg. Leave it to Hollywood to cash in on a sad situation, right? When the letter H fell down in 1944, it was attributed to Entwistle's spirit. rather than the more likely explanation of rotten wood and high winds. Numerous dog walkers and park rangers in the past half century have reported supposed sightings of the apparition of a blonde woman dressed in 1930s clothing who was haunting the Hollywood sign. And now we know her story. Peg. In 2014, on the anniversary of her suicide, more than 100 people gathered above the gateways to the Hollywood sign. It had lost the land section in 1949 to eat popcorn and watch Entwistle in a special outdoor screening of 13 women. Although that was her only film role, she had been a successful stage actress, earning recognition for her performances. When she came to Hollywood, she got recognized. James Zurich Jr., her biographer, wrote, one time when she was out to dinner with her aunt and another actress, and some people asked for her autograph because they saw her in a play in New York a month earlier. Peg was more, much, much more than just the poor Hollywood sign girl. Late in life, Oscar winner Bette Davis looked back on the fate of an anguished young woman who had once done so much to inspire her own acting career. She jumped to her death, wrote Davis, and she could have had an enormous career, this girl. Sometimes sad lives that end in tragic deaths later manifest as ghosts that haunt the locations where they once enjoyed life or where they died. In the case of Peg Entwistle, her spirit apparently still roams the hill around the sign that symbolized her dream. As legend has it, if you wander near the sign on a foggy night, you might just encounter her for yourself. Rest in peace, Peg. Rest in peace. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know what you guys think and leave those comments. I love my comments. I love you all, and see you next time. Until told.